Welcome to stormTRacker, your eye on the storm of your Carolina Hurricanes, and your home for the best insight and analysis to keep you totally informed on what's happening with the Canes. Whether it's the latest news on the ice or off the ice, we've got you covered. Now let's begin. Here's your host, Tom Ray.
Well, the Carolina Hurricanes are off to a great start this year, and they've been on the road. And of course, last year, this was a big challenge for them. They struggled on their West Coast road trip. In fact, went 2-4 and had 30 goals scored against them during that time. And it was really a breaking in period for Dmitry Orlov. And he was partnered, I think we recall, with Tony DeAngelo for a good part of that, and their numbers were just horrendous. They had a combined minus 15 on this trip. So we're very curious to see how it was going to go this year. Of course, the Canes have made numerous major moves this year. Of course, we talked about Pesce leaving. We talked about Shea leaving. Of course, Teravainen's gone. Nason is gone, playing well in New Jersey, and others. A lot of folks thought this was going to be a challenge for the Hurricanes this year, but it's gone extremely well. So I thought we'd spend some time today and talk a little bit about how it's going, what surprised us, what's exciting with this team, what are we looking for to kind of improve a little bit as we go forward, and then how do we see things as the start of the season, each of us kind of looking at what do we think the Canes have done so far. So lots to talk about. And of course, joining me, stormTRacker insiders, Erin Manning and Katie Bartlett. Ladies, hello.
Hi there.
Hello. So lots to talk about, but before we get started, I thought I'd just spend a minute and highlight you, Erin, with some exciting news with your recent announcement that you released a new book, and it's called Twist. It's part of your Wizard series, Wizard's
Mischief.
Yes.
Wizard Mischief.
Yes, thank you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? And I understand this is your 19th book. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm a self-published author. I've been publishing books since 2012. And I started writing fantasy and science fiction for young adults ages 11 and up. There's a lot of different types of books in that genre, but I gear mine towards, being something family friendly that anyone in the family can read, because there are with the older range of that readers kind of getting into the teenage and actual young adult years. Some of the books are not geared for the younger readers, and it can be hard to find some that are family appropriate. So with this new series, I have a series that follows the magical adventures of a young boy named Rogan, who discovers that he is not the magical loser he thought he was, but is actually a very important and powerful person in his country, and a key piece to fighting some very powerful enemies that the leaders of the country have. So it's been fun to develop the story and to bring people along for Rogan's journey of self-discovery as he learns that he's a lot more powerful than he thinks, but that his sense of humor and his love of mischief can get him into more trouble than he thinks. So
yeah, it sounds amazing. Now, where can folks get a hold of these books?
Primarily, my main channel of distribution is Amazon, because I do use Amazon's self-publishing platform, the Kindle Direct. It's actually a fantastic platform. I really recommend it to anybody out there who's got a novel they really want to get going, because you don't have to be a technological genius to figure out how to publish through Amazon's platform. But then Amazon makes expanded distribution available. So technically, bookstores could order it if they wanted to. And that would be, people by request. And some of the other Barnes and Noble, some of the other online stores do have them as well. So
cool. Now, this follows another series, I think, was it Ordinary Sam? Is that who it was?
Yes, The Adventures of Ordinary Sam is another fantasy magic series, and that one was fun for me. That one is fully complete. It's 5 books already complete and out there. The fun part for me with that one was I had always wondered, we always hear stories of someone who has a magic adventure in another land, and then they come home and that's that. I wanted to start the story after he comes home. So the story begins when Sam finds himself back home in the ordinary world, but he remembers a year full of magic adventure in a kingdom no one's ever heard of, and a magic powerful object that seems to have found its way back with him. So that was a lot of fun too. And there's a talking bird named Kittret in that one, and I love having a talking bird character. So this one is more, I think this one appeals really well to the younger age of my audience. So, and I've got some people that absolutely love that series and have let me know that, which is the great thing. I joke about having tens of readers, but I love having readers that are passionate about my books, even if they're not the most numerous group of readers in the world. So
well, listen, I think it's amazing and awesome, and congratulations on your new release. And we're going to definitely be following you closely in the months ahead. And what, I don't know how you do it all with all the time you spend in the hockey world, and of course with writing as well.
I'm toying with some hockey fiction right now, so we'll see what happens with that.
Oh, that is really cool. Well, absolutely, and again, thanks for joining us here, Erin, because that's awesome. That's awesome news. So let's talk a little bit about the Hurricanes. So surprising and exciting. Let's talk about the defense core first. Who wants to kick it off?
I'm big into the D, as I've said multiple times in the past episodes. I don't know what it is about defense, especially because I think so much of what Carolina is successful with starts with their defense. The defense really drives their entire identity, and without their defense, their offensive systems don't make work and or don't make sense or have more struggles. And without the defense, also puts a lot more pressure on the goalies. So it's really that pivotal nexus in the Canes game plan. Obviously, Slavin and Burns have been a top pairing, just like we've been used to the past couple seasons. They've been great. Orlov and Chatfield have been steady to start. No real surprises there with them. But everybody was keyed in on, what about Walker and Gostisbehere? Is this Ghost Walker pair going to make Canes forget about what we've lost on the blue line? And I definitely think that they have done that and more. This pair has had chemistry from the get-go, which really has surprised me, very pleasantly surprised me. But I thought they were going to be too samey, and they have it. Walker has taken up the mantle of being that more stay-at-home type mentality, guarding the blue line and really letting Ghost play into his offensive skills and talents. And that's been the best part of the blue line, right? Gostisbehere has been phenomenal, and he has been phenomenal 5-on-5, and he has been extra phenomenal on the power play. It has been so good to have him back. And if this is what the start of the season looks like with him, I think that we can expect even more as he gets reacclimated to the team and the team gets reacclimated to him. I really think he is going to have a standout career year, and I can't wait to see how that unfolds.
Erin?
I would definitely agree with that, everything you just said there. And, his, in particular, I mean, one of the things I think you notice when you watch him is that he just makes decisions so quickly with that puck. He's not just the movement of the puck to get it into the zone on the power play or even at 5-on-5, but the fact that he just always seems to know when to take that shot and when to pass it along to someone who's got a little bit better lane or a little bit more open. It's just so instantaneous. And I think we've seen in the past that some defensemen who have quarterbacked the Canes power play, and I'm thinking back a couple of years now, but we've had different people up there.
Yes.
Not all of them have been the quickest to say, I'm not going to take this big booming shot from the blue line. I'm going to see who's closer. I'm going to get it, use a little deception, maybe make it look like I'm taking that shot. I love the fact that Ghost seems pretty confident to do that, to be deceptive. He'll get into the lane, and then, as everyone immediately rushes to cover him, he finds the open man, and he's just doing it really, really well. It's fun to watch.
Well, it is. And, a couple of things. We talk about the fact that Orlov and Chatfield have moved up to the number 2 pairing. So they're playing more minutes, and they're currently sitting at a +2 combined, which I think is excellent. And, again, they're finding their way. And I think Chatfield, and I know this was discussed in the game last night, Chatfield's starting to really get his mojo now. You can see it. He made several plays that were just outstanding. And And again, he had to kind of find his way along the path of being a second pairing guy and getting some tough minutes. So he's really, really starting to show that. And the other guys, the Walker Gostisbehere group, the thing about Walker that I've really liked is that, he's just a smart player. Like he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He gets the puck and moves it smartly. And again, he's been very strong in the D zone. So I think they're a +1 combined as well. So I think that's great. Gostisbehere, you guys have talked about him. He's been amazing. He's had a 65-point year before in 2017-18. So he's going to rack up the points. Now, something I think you mentioned on X, Erin, is the number of shots that they had on the power play.
That was insane.
That was insane. Yeah, what was it? 24?
24 shots. Yeah. And it's the most since 2019 when the Toronto Maple Leafs had a power play in a game that had 26.
Yeah.
But not since 2019 has anybody even come close to that. So that's just crazy.
But I thought it wasn't the most for the Canes since 2008 or something.
Yes, for the Canes, it's the most since 2008. Yes.
It's amazing.
They haven't done that.
Yeah. No, I was just going to mention, but I think the point about that, and that's amazing. That's an amazing stat. Mm-hmm. Is the way that this power play is moving the puck. I mean, it's astounding. It's incredibly crisp, and there's no question in my mind that it's being driven by Ghost. I mean, he's mm-hmm. driving the bus. And, we talked a lot about this in the off season when we talked about the D-core and the feeling that, I mean, he's a different type of player, quarterback, than is Burns. I mean, Burns is that shoot first guy. He just wants to get on a stick and fire it.
Yep.
And Ghost is a guy who's thinking. Okay, he sees the ice well, so he's looking around to see who's going to, and he and Aho seem to have a really nice just a nice way to work the puck around to get somebody open on the other side or whatever the case is. So he gets to the center of the ice. He does that regularly, and I think the power play is going to be a tremendous point. Now, the other thing, and speaking of that, is of course the penalty kill has been outstanding as well, and that's a different discussion. But I think that's where Burns and Slavin have really stepped up. And I was watching, particularly last night, I was quite impressed with Burns. I thought he just played a tremendous, solid game back on the blue, and they were playing hard minutes. They were getting the tough situations, and of course. What did Tripp call Slavin? It's a defensive guru.
Guru. Yeah. The 2-on-1 guru. The 2-on-1 guru.
Yeah, that's right. But Slavin is the best in the game defensively. There's no question. And he showed that again last night. But those guys, again, doing their job and doing it well. And I know we had some concerns starting off the season with Brent Burns, but I think he's looking solid.
Mm-hmm. I think not playing on the power play is going to be really good for him. He can focus his energy on the penalty kill and on 5-on-5 and find his ways to contribute there. And just taking a little bit of that wear and tear off of him, hopefully will work out over the entire course of the season and have him just in perfect form once the playoffs roll around.
And that's really key to where having that second unit basically be just sort of a backup. I mean, they got a few turns last night because of the 4-minute high sticking penalty and some of those things. But they're out there for such brief shifts for the most part. It's one of those. It would be great if they managed to produce something, but no one's really expecting it. And so I think that also takes some pressure off because they're not out there for a long time. So he doesn't have to be dragging the puck into the zone 3 or 4 times over the course of a minute and a half because, they're not going to be in that situation very much. So, and I think that once Jackson Blake has been on the power play, I was noticing this last night too, the second unit did get some really good chances. I think that when Jackson Blake has been out there, because he's kind of, to me, it seems like they've kind of got him in that net front role right now. And if that chemistry builds just a little bit more, I could see some goals going in from Burns' point shots, and the rebounds. They just haven't had a lot of reps.
Yeah,
they haven't had a lot of time together.
No, but I think with Blake, and that's an interesting comment, Erin, is that Blake has no reluctance to handle the puck
not
and
at
make
all.
something happen. Like, he'll grab the puck and skate all around. He's very comfortable with that, finding the open guy. I think he was showing a lot of confidence doing that on the power play, and I think that's great. So I think the D side, I think for a lot of folks who felt like the loss of Shea and Pesce was going to be devastating to the Hurricanes, I think at this stage, in its early days, but the indications are that this D core is going to be just fine. So moving on to goaltending, I was looking at some of the numbers, and it turns out that Freddie Anderson is number one in the league right now in save percentage and also in his goals against average. So his numbers are unbelievable. And he played another strong game last night. So the goaltending, I think it's in great shape. Your thoughts?
Oh, I've really enjoyed the goaltending. If you remember last season, you talked about, 30 goals or something they had given up early in the season. A lot of that had to do with the inconsistent goaltending, as well as the play in front of the goaltenders. Kochetkov had started off the season down, I think, in Syracuse or whichever minor league team he had been lent to, since we weren't affiliated with Chicago last year. And then he came up for a little while, and it was rough for him too. When he got called up and they got sent back down, they got called back up. It was this big yo-yo, and the health and everything. It's just made such a world of difference to have him and Anderson up together. They're both healthy. Yes. They're both feeling good. The team's playing well in front of them, which gives them a lot of confidence to be tall, to play forward, to make themselves a big target in that crease. And with those two things combined, the play in front of them and their health, and knowing what their role is going to be. Because I think Rod has been very clear that they're going to go back to what worked at the end of the regular season last year with doing the rotation, a start for Freddie, a start for Pyotr, back and forth, trusting both of them to do what they need to do to get the job done. And it's looked really, really good. I know Pyotr had that one kind of shaky game against St. Louis, but it was, in all fairness, a back-to-back. He was fresh, but the team in front of him, I think, just lost their legs a little bit. Yeah. And
agreed.
That can that there's the difference of a goal or two right there. So, it is what it is, early days. But other than that, they've looked so good, and I fully expect Rod to keep this up, because the more rest Freddie gets, the less likely it is that he's going to deal with some sort of significant injury as he has in the past. And the more consistent playing time that Pyotr gets, the better he's going to perform. So it's the best of both worlds, and hopefully the Canes can continue this moving forward for the entire season, ideally.
I would agree with that. And I would actually say that, your comment made me think of something, when you really think about the beginning of last year, you had a team that was really struggling to connect to its identity for reasons that still kind of it's baffling to think about what happened last year, because they didn't have a lot of new additions.
They did not.
It was really just Orlov and Bunting, but for some reason they just couldn't click as a group. And then on top of that, you had Freddie, whose health condition was made known around, it was sometime between the 6th and 10th of November, I believe. Yeah. And then, Antti Ranta, who was clearly struggling as well. And then, like you said, Pyotr coming back and forth from Syracuse, not from Chicago. Right. And just, not necessarily getting the playing time there either, because, so he's getting called in, and maybe he was a little bit cold, not quite up to speed. It was really a cascade of all those things that led to what you were saying, Tom, about how many goals against they had last year. That because it wasn't normal for the Canes. And I think that looking at it now, seeing this group click so well so early, it's like, what happened?
I think with Freddie, rest is key for him. He has been, he's made huge saves look easy. I mean, he's just, it's like a beach ball coming at him. It's easy for him. Mm-hmm. And I think this is great to see, because, the way the Canes are going to play, and I think they're showing it with the scores, they're lower scores for the most part. And, they're going to have a solid D, solid goaltending. They don't have the offensive guns at this point that they've had in the past. So I think that's a good sign. And I'm ecstatic with the goaltending. I think that they could be among the top pairs if they're healthy all year. I really think they can be, and look forward to that. So then we move to the forward side. Now, a lot of things are kind of, in change here over the last 2 or 3 games. We've seen a lot of different changes with Rod Brind'Amour trying to find the combinations that work. But the one that I wanted to really focus on today was that second line. And this has been a discussion for a long time. Of course, Kotkaniemi centering for Eric Robinson now. And on the right side, Martin Necas. So again, a lot of question about Kotkaniemi. Can he get it done? A lot of question about Necas because of what went on in the summer. What are our thoughts about that second line? Where do we think that is? Do you want to kick it off, Erin?
Sure. I think that there's been a couple different, like you said, there've been a couple different combinations. They started with Roslovic on that line, but Roslovic has been up and down between the top line, even in the camp and the preseason. So I like what Robinson brings on the line because he's got a lot more speed than I think people give him credit for. And that speed matching Necas's has been really fun to watch. I think with Kotkaniemi, he's had a fantastic start in most ways. He still needs that first goal. I think once the first one comes, it'll be all right. But his points have been fine. His assists have been fine. He's looking a lot more poised to me on the ice, and that I think is something that comes with the maturity factor. And you can see the areas where there have been times when Rod will put that fourth or that second line out, and you're thinking, okay, with Necas, with Kotkaniemi, he's putting them out there and saying this is a big moment in the game, and I'm trusting this line to get it done. So that means a lot to both of them, I think. But the star of that line, undisputably, is Martin Necas, and what he has managed to do over these first few games. It has been so much fun to watch. A little bit quieter game from him last night, perhaps, but probably understandable considering how big the game before was.
Yes.
But he's just been everywhere. He's even without putting up a lot last night, he did still pick up an assist on the power play. And he's just, he's involved in everything. He's not holding back. He's not trying to, direct traffic completely himself. He's just very involved in all the plays. So that's been fun to watch.
It's been nice seeing Necas not try to do it all himself. He does seem to be a little bit more aware of his line mates and communicating with them. That one goal he had a couple games ago where he and Robinson just drove into the zone and Robinson found him for the tap in. I want more of that. That is something where they could just start picking defenses apart if those two are able to get synced together, plus the support of KK alongside them, because the speed of Necas is really what's going to get that motor and production going, especially 5-on-5. So that is very encouraging. And like Erin said, KK's contributions have been there too, but they've been a little bit more subtle. And I think as we see the season go along, he's still going to continue playing a really good defensively responsible game. He's going to be their safety valve in case Necas and Robinson do get caught a little too deep in their zone. And he's done well with that. And his physicality is starting to come out a little bit more. He seems a little bit quicker to the puck. It just, all the fundamentals seem to be there with KK. And I think as soon as he starts trusting his fundamentals more and more, the offensive production is going to come along. Like Erin said, as soon as he gets that first goal, it'll be a domino effect and start working there. And then back to Necas, the other thing is the power play. He has set up shop once they're in the zone in that left face-off circle, which is exactly what I wanted to see from him. He has such a lethal shot from there. He scored, I think, a couple of power play goals from there, at least one, but I think maybe it's been two. And I want, with the way that Ghost is being successful up at the top of the zone and the others have moved it around, I really hope that they start finding Necas a little bit more because his shot is just so good from that particular spot. And I want to see them keep taking advantage of it so that their power play continues red hot like it's been.
Well, interesting on that, on the power play side, and you're right on, I think, Katie, on that. Aho's been the guy getting most of those types of shots. Like he's been putting himself in a position to wire it, and I've been really surprised because he's been really taking advantage of that. So that's great. But we do know that Martin Necas really loves it on that left side where he can get an advantage against the goaltender, and of course his play on the power play has been wonderful. I think he's been working quite nicely with his teammates out there. And I think this is just a demonstration of the fact that he wanted to be on that number one power play, and he's taking and running with it. So that's all great. I wanted to mention about KK just for a minute. He's a +3, and his defensive work has been really outstanding. He's been coming back into his own zone. He's been helping out. He's been bringing the puck up. And I think, as you say, the offense is going to come. Bit of a, again, as their line gets chemistry. And I think that's always the big question with this second unit. And we've talked a little bit about this in the past, but, Necas is kind of a freewheeling guy. He likes to do his own thing. And you've just got two new guys actually, you've got a new player on the left side with Eric Robinson just there a couple of games. So trying to find some chemistry with those guys. I think if they do that, the offense is going to come. And a couple of plays that Kotkaniemi made last night. He made one at the blue line where he got the puck in. It was on a power play, and he got it over to Burns. It was a wonderful play, and it's just, he sees the ice. He knows what's going on out there. And I think the biggest single difference is what we talked a lot about this summer was he got into a bad place last year confidence-wise. And at the end of the year, we recall he was really struggling. He just did not have confidence in his game. And he's showing a lot of confidence right now. When you see him go up the ice, he's definitely out there making something happen. So I've got high hopes for KK this year, and I think the start is very positive. And hopefully he can continue. If he gets that first goal, that'll be great.
Absolutely.
So I think definitely, those folks are coming through for the Canes. When you take a look at the lineup, it's hard to really find some areas of concern. I mean, we looked at some of the players that we thought we might see something. And again, a couple of them we had talked a little bit about previously, a couple of them that jumped up last night were Jack Drury and Andrei Svechnikov. So, it's kind of interesting how this works. But let's take a look at that fourth line, because I think that's an interesting place to look. That was a bit of a concern. I mentioned Drury got off to a bit of a slow start. We're wondering about Jackson Blake. Now they put William Carrier back there. What are our thoughts about that fourth line? Are we okay with that? Do we feel there's some opportunity here? What are we thinking?
Well, I think that, it is funny because it seems like whenever you really focus on an area where you think, gosh, that person or that group could be doing a little bit more. So a lot of people were saying, yeah, gee, the fourth line just isn't that much of a factor, but okay, it's the fourth line. They don't play a lot of minutes. It's no big deal. They'll get it together. And then they come out against the Kraken last night and just absolutely took over the game. They were so dominant. They were just incredible the entire time. That I think apart from Jarvis's breakaway, they were the story of the game. And Jarvis's breakaway was a huge story on its own. Yes. But for these three guys, I mean, with Seth Jarvis, that's going to come. He's going to have those moments. Yes. He's going to be that way. For a fourth line of players like Drury and Blake and Carrier, yes. you're still putting that together. You're still, I mean, Carrier's only been, this was what, his second game with them?
A couple of games, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of games. And you had said, Tom, that you thought perhaps he might be a better fit on the fourth line than on Stahl's line because he used to play the fourth line in Vegas. And, certainly he seems like he's doing great with them. Yeah. But what a thing to see the three of them combined like that. And Blake just, every time I think, well, gee, he is young. Should he really be in playing in Raleigh all year? But then he'll have a game like this. And I think I see exactly what they see. Yeah. I see exactly why they put him in there in the first place. He's just got an incredible hockey IQ, and that when you have that, everything else comes into place. So I was excited to see them play so well. What about you, Katie?
Oh, yeah, that was fantastic. And I definitely had some concerns there for a while. If you recall the past couple seasons, Drury's best chemistry came with Nason because it had carried over from their time together in Chicago. And so the question was, how was Drury going to do without his go-to guy glued to his side? And I think perhaps Jackson Blake might become that new go-to guy for Drury once they start really figuring each other out. Because like you said, Erin, his hockey IQ is really, really good, but he also has a really, really high work ethic, which is perfect in a Rod Brind'Amour system. He is not afraid to go to the dirty areas, to be tough on pucks and grind it out, to do the hard forecheck. Because that's the first thing a fourth line has to do, right? Is make sure that the other team doesn't get possession of the puck, give your big guys a bit of a breather, create some good energy that the top lines can feed off of and get off the ice with no harm done. Yeah. But our fourth line has a real potential to be more than just a basic plug and play fourth line. And so that's what I'm excited for. I think Carrier is going to really help stabilize just the presence so that they don't get too lost on the ice, have that good forechecking and defensive responsibility, and that'll open up a little bit more for Drury and Blake to go to work and create some scoring opportunities, because that goal by Drury was so crucial in that time of the game, because the Canes had dominated the game, but we're only up 1-0. And that means that one weird play, one mistake tied the game at that point. And so their goal allowed the Canes to say, okay, we're good, we're fine, we've got this, and move forward. And that goal ended up being the game-winning goal. So huge from them. I can't wait to see how they end up building on this, because what a weapon for the Canes to have.
Well, for sure. And a couple things. We've talked about Jack Drury in the face-off circle. His numbers are outstanding, and he's been at the top for the Canes, I think, the last couple of seasons. So that's a great thing when you're on a fourth line like that, where they can get control of the puck. And I noticed, they got a number of face-off wins last night, and it was kind of a group effort where, the puck would come loose, and I think Blake got it one time, and maybe Carrier and the other one. And finding a way to get it back to the point and keep the play going. The other thing you see with Jackson Blake is if you watched him in any of the kind of the college action, he was dominant, and he would take the puck and he would control the play. I mean, he's used to doing that. He's got no concern with taking that puck and running with it and making smart moves. And that's the thing I've been watching is, when he starts to do that, does he get himself into a world of hurt, or what happens, right? But so far, he's been pretty successful with it, and he's been able to find a way to get the puck to someone else and keep the play going. And I think that's exciting. And I think one of the values of a guy like Jackson Blake, if he can hang in there and they can continue to bring him along as they are, is they do have an offensive weapon on that line. Because he's definitely a guy that can put the puck in the net, and he can make smart plays like he did on that beautiful Drury goal. So I think Blake's a guy that we're going to want to see more from. Now, the other thing, of course, we know is that on the road, the Canes did not have the opportunity to get favorable matchups. Okay, so heading back home, they're going to be able to do some good work for guys like Blake and Carrier and Drury, because in some cases they were up against the best lines. And that's the matchup that the opposing team wanted. So the other thing that happened was, of course, their minutes were diminished because, again, couldn't get the matchups. So there would be situations where they'd skip a shift. In fact, you'd see it. And so I think heading back home, we're going to see a little bit more from that fourth line. I just hope they keep them together. This is my hope, is that they'll keep Carrier on that line. And they'll continue to work with Drury and Blake, and I think those guys can definitely have a factor. But it's one of those things where you just hope that Rod will just hang in there with them, let them get some synergy together, and let's see how it goes.
I think that I agree with you for the most part, but the one thing that does intrigue me is that there is a possibility, like you said, when they're at home and Rod controls the matchups, he may occasionally want to put Jackson Blake on one of the top two lines, because he is so good offensively, and he is, as those passes are just gorgeous, and the threat that he can manage to create. So I think that just as a way of rounding out to see what they have with him, that they may say, you know what, we get to control the matchups, we get to build the stall line first, and then put everybody else where we want to. So I wouldn't be surprised. My little joke, I wouldn't be surprised if Rod decided to give him some second line or first line ice time here and there. So apart from that, though, I agree with you. And especially I agree about Carrier, because I think the one thing that I noticed last night, I don't know if you guys noticed this too, he does not have Robinson's speed.
No.
But that's a better fit with Drury, because Drury's not super fast either.
Correct.
And I think that maybe Robinson was too fast for that line, and that may have been why they moved him up in the first place. So,
no, I agree. I think you're right. And again, we know the lines are going to change over time, and that's just the nature of the beast. There'll be injuries. There'll be Rod Brind'Amour, as he's called on occasion, playing with the lines and so on. But I think this line certainly has the potential, and I've been pleased with him. The other guy that, we talked a little bit about and kind of hoping he would go to the next level is Andrei Svechnikov.
Yeah, he's had a good, I guess that'd be the best word to use, start to the season. He's had his points. Before last night, he had the 1 5-on-5 goal early, and he's had a few assists here and there. But for someone who's supposed to be your power forward, who's supposed to be one of your scoring superstars, it just felt a little wanting. And yet last night really helped with that. That power play goal was fantastic with the zone entry and the passing that happened between the different players and ended up on Andrei's stick, and he just finished it. Wonderful. And I hope that will help build his confidence and help give him a boost, because if the Canes are going to be successful, not only this regular season, but pushing into the postseason, Svech is going to have to be a big, big part of the scoring. He needs to be somebody that when he gets on the ice, alongside Aho and whoever else is playing up on that top line that game, they go, okay, here he comes. We've got to be perfect or we're going to get burned. And even that might not be enough. Like, that needs to be the mentality in the back of the defense's head is watch out. Here he comes. He's so good that if we're not playing our A+ game, he is going to make us pay for it. That's the kind of Svech I want to see. I want to see him really, really hungry, not waiting for the opportunities, but going out and creating and making his own opportunities.
I would agree 100%. And I agree. I think that the power play goal is going to help spark him a little bit offensively, because sometimes it's just that matter of trusting your shot, trusting that you can actually, we know that the Canes are a high volume shooting team. The downside of that is that they're low finishing, but sometimes that gets in your head that it's good enough to, as long as you're getting your shots on goal, it doesn't matter if it goes in or not, because that's how the system seems to be organized. So you want someone like Svech to reject that mentality and not think of shooting as the goal, but scoring as the goal. And it's not like they don't all think that anyway, but I think there can be some hesitation, especially for someone after everything he went through with the injury and coming back from that. I think that there's still been some on and off hesitation about shooting versus passing. And you don't want him to be a pass first guy. You don't want Andrei Svechnikov to be a pass first guy. You want him to be, I'm going to take it to the net. I'm going to lower my shoulder and drive the net. I'm going to have my way with the defenders in front and just get them out of the way. And we saw that last night because he was in what Trip Tracy called beast mode.
He was in beast mode.
He went into beast mode. And I love when he does that, because that's the physical nature, like Kitty was saying too. It's part of the whole power forward package. You want him to have that snarl, be a little bit nasty, be a little bit physical, and and then also shoot and score. And I think that it's kind of astonishing to me that he's been able to do that without taking as many penalties as he has in the past. So that's a sign of maturity too, that he's, it's not either or. It's not either I hang back and I'm, deferential and, I don't get in trouble and I don't end up in the box, or I go into beast mode and I sit in the box half the game, because I think before for him, that was kind of the trade-off, it felt like every time he would elevate to that level, he would get called for the stupidest things. And, that comes with maturity too. I think it does. It's just learning how far you can go without going too far, especially when the refs are watching. So.
I think Svech, frankly, he has a lot more to give, and he's got to. He was a second overall pick. He was extremely highly ballyhooed when the Canes got him. His early years were very, very promising, and he just hasn't taken that next step. And I think he's got to really, as you say, he's got to grab it and run with it. And the other thing we've seen with him is he gets in these streaks. He'll get hot and he'll get really hot. And maybe maybe he'll find that and he'll start to drive those numbers. And that's what he really needs to do. He's got to get that confidence back up. But he's on a great line. I think those three guys are working well together. With Roslovic sitting up there now, I've been impressed with that line. Of course, Aho he played 23 minutes last night. It's incredible. He's carrying his weight for sure. And he's off to a great start for the Hurricanes. So again, we'd like to see a little bit more from Svetch for sure, but that's a good thing because the Canes are doing this winning without him driving the bus. So that's a very good sign.
One thing just really quick that might be good on that top line is, I don't remember if it was Mike or Tripp who mentioned on one of the broadcasts that Roslovic is a shooter. He is always looking to shoot, looking for that opportunity. And that's part of where I think why Rod put Roslovic up on that line is he has some speed, but he's also willing to shoot. So perhaps being on that line, Svetch, that'll rub off on Svetch a little bit, and watch Roslovic shooting more and the opportunities he creates through his shot. And if both of them are doing that, with Aho being the facilitator between the two of them, that could end up being a really effective top line. But they need that little bit of extra mojo and communication between the three of them, and that could really take off. But again, Roslovic is shooting a ton. Get Svetch to shoot as much as Roslovic does, and the goals are going to start to go up.
Absolutely.
Well, Roslovic hit a post last night. I mean, it was a goal. Yeah. All he had to do was get it an inch to the left, and it was in the net. He's hit a number of posts.
Loud.
Yeah. Oh, he can really shoot it. There's no question, and he can shoot it quickly. So he scored 22 goals one year with Columbus. So we know he can put the puck in the net, and he's definitely showing that. And working the wing with Aho, that's beauty. I mean, it's a great combination. So, lots of excitement there. Now, are there areas for improvement? This is a tough one. I mean, the Canes are 5-2 on the season. They're 4-1 on the road trip. Is there anything that we should be thinking about in terms of areas of improvement? Thoughts?
Well, this is a little Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You go first.
I was just thinking on the defense, other than Gostisbehere, there's just been and Orlov's empty net last night. There hasn't been a whole lot of goals produced from the defense. And that's something we have gotten used to the last few seasons. It was, Burns was producing goals. Slavin would chip in with a couple here or there. We'd go to Chapmandu every now and again.
And of course, Brady Shea.
And of course, Shea. We got Benny from Shea.
Yeah.
We're just used to getting more goals from the defense. And so right now, like I said, other than the empty netter from Orlov, the only D-man who has scored so far is Ghost. And granted, he's been doing great on that. He has multiple goals, but I really think that I'd like to see a little more from Walker. I think he has it in him. He's probably just getting used to the system and making sure he has he's minding his P's and Q's on the defensive end first. But there was a play that he did last night where he did a bank pass out to the forward, and then he moved up the ice, and the forward passed it to another forward who went deep in the zone. I think it was Carrier, but he didn't see Walker. Walker was wide open. He had just split the D zone, made it all the way through the neutral zone, and was up there like another forward on that rush. It was fantastic from him. And once the Canes forwards start getting used to that, where Ghost is going to be the offensive driver once they are established in the offensive zone, but Walker is going to give them a lot of offensive options when it comes to being in on the rush while entering the zone. So I'd like to see that. Obviously, Burns doesn't have a goal yet. It'd be nice to see him get on that goal sheet as well. Yes. And I think, Orlov and Chatfield, they'll contribute their handful of goals here and there. But I think that would be my one area, is just more offensive production, especially from the goal side of things from the defense outside of Ghost.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree 100%. And I mean, when you look at, it's not just the goals. I mean, so far, I think Chatfield and Walker are the only two skaters who don't yet have a point this season.
Yes.
we have a goalie who has a point this season.
That was a great setup, by the way.
Kochetkov.
That was a beauty.
Yes.
Pyotr Kochetkov got his first NHL assist, and I was so excited when I realized it was his first, because I could have sworn he had already scored at least one, but no, his first NHL assist. But because of that, you do look at the defense and say, okay, we know that they're doing great defensively, and there's absolutely, Burns in particular, we already talked about that. You cannot criticize anything he's doing, defensively whatsoever. He's been fantastic. But yes, the Canes system is built on some of those really timely goals coming from defensemen. And right now, I know Ghost is carrying the weight of that, especially on the power play. But as the season progresses and the opposing teams get more and more tape on Ghost, that's when we're really going to need to see the rest of the defense kicking in with that, because that has been a feature of the Canes since, as long as I can remember, that the defense produce goals, and the forwards make way for them to do that a lot. So hopefully they can get that going, because it's always fun too, because, when the Ds are pinching and that actually happens, it's just exciting.
Well, and again, I think the shot volume is coming. There's no question Burns, I think, had 5 or 6 shots last night, so he was definitely in there. Couple of points. We did talk about Walker, and there's been discussion about this as well. Walker's not unlike Orlov and Burns before him. They've got to figure out this Canes way of playing, and it's not the easiest thing. And I'm sure he's putting a lot of his concentration on the defensive side of the game. And, once he kind of gets his mojo with that, I think you're going to see him show what he can really do offensively, because we know he's got it there. He can fly, and he's a guy that likes to get into the rush as well. So I think that's going to come. Same thing with Chatfield. As I mentioned earlier, I think Jalen's been kind of cutting his teeth on this second pairing idea and being a little bit more conservative. And I think as he started to show the last couple of games, he's starting to feel more comfortable, and he's really starting to make things happen out there. And he's a guy that, with those wheels, he can cause a lot of damage for sure. So I'm with you on the offensive side, but I think it's great that to this point it hasn't been a big concern. The numbers are excellent win-wise and so on. And most importantly, they're taking care of their defensive game, and that's where Rod. Everything starts with Brind'Amour, as you know, and it's going well. So look, they're off to a great start. My goodness, what an easy show when you can talk about a team that's playing like the Hurricanes are, right? But let's have some fun right now, and as we kind of wrap it up, a couple of different things I want to throw out there. If you had one word to sum up the Canes season so far, what would it be? We'll start with you, Erin. What's your word?
Well, it's funny. It's changed a few times because I had different things on my mind. That's my prerogative as a woman. I can change my mind. But the word that I really am intrigued by right now is, I think, unified. When you look at how they were at the beginning of last season, it seemed like everybody had a different page from a different playbook, and nobody was really, the team didn't have that cohesiveness.
Yes.
And you look at what they've been able to achieve so far through these first, however many games, and you're not seeing that, even though there's all these new additions, even though the core players have left. Last year, I keep coming back to that, how different it was, and just the sense that they weren't all on the same page, and the talks about that from the team themselves, that there were people that were not buying in. That was the phrase we kept hearing all the time. People aren't buying in.
That's exactly right.
We have buy-in, and we have a very unified buy-in. Everybody's bought in, so much so. And then, I don't know if you guys saw the video from this morning from Rod Brind'Amour from the locker room last night. There were a lot of goal horns. But he was extremely happy with how last night's game went. He said as much to Ryan Henkel in the post-game interviews, but he also reiterated to the team that this is exactly how he wants them to play. I don't remember that moment coming that early or at all, really, during the first part of the season last year. There was so much more of the, they were losing so many games, and when they were winning, it was oftentimes a scramble. And so, they're unified. And I love that, because that's one of the things that characterizes a team that doesn't rely on a couple of stars, but on everybody chipping in and working hard together. So
Yeah.
that's my word. What about you, Katie?
Interesting, and just to comment on that is Eric Tulsky, and I love Eric Tulsky. He picked players that he thought were going to be Carolina Hurricane players. There's no question, and it's been mentioned on the broadcast. A lot of folks have talked about this, but you wonder why these folks are buying in, why they're able to get into the system quickly and make a difference, is because they are picked. They were handpicked by Tulsky. And he picked them based on, certain things that, through his deep analytical mind, was the combination that would work with the Canes. And I think that's one of the reasons it's happening. So, yeah, kudos to Eric, and certainly so far so good with these new players. Katie, what's your word?
I think I'd say purpose-driven. There's a hyphen in there, so it still counts as a word.
Hyphen.
But it just feels like every time a player is out on the ice, he knows what his purpose is, and he has a drive to fulfill that purpose, whether it's forechecking or attacking or defending or breaking up plays in the neutral zone, or for the goalies, tracking the puck, or something as simple as playing the puck, the play by the goalies behind the net. Even Kochetkov, who can go on adventures sometimes, has been really, really solid and stable and the choices he's making when he's playing the puck. And it's not just that he's playing it safe. He has had a couple of really strong clears out of the zone that, it takes some smarts and some drive and some purpose to make those decisions and to execute them as well as he has. And so every single player is just, they are playing with drive. They are playing with purpose. They are doing the little things which are resulting in the big things. And I've loved seeing that, especially, as Erin said, so early in the season, and having that already be a feature of their game. Because once they settled into that style of game back in December last year, I think they had the best record.
They were the
middle
best
of December
team,
onto the end. Onto the end of the season. Yeah. And so that's the thing, is other teams are going to have their mountains and their valleys, and they're just going to up and down, up and down. I think the Canes are going to plateau, but plateau in the absolute best way possible, where they're just going to hit their stride and they're just going to keep going with it. And there might be a little dip, but it's not going to be much of one, because they're so consistently driven to do all of the little things that makes them who they are and gives them their identity as the Hurricanes.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. And the word that I picked kind of fits in with that, and that's bullish. I'm extremely bullish on this team. And the reason is, and I've talked about this so many times, is the way that Rod Brind'Amour coaches a team. He can take a cast, and as long as he's got enough talent in there, they can go an awful long way. And he's got some outstanding players to build around, as we know. And I think, again, a lot of folks were kind of wondering in the off season. We had some fun with ESPN saying they didn't think they were going to make the playoffs, and other people thinking they were going to be way down. And that brings us to the next part of the discussion. And that's, how do we think they're going to stack up in this Metro division? That's back to the whole thing about, the season preview and, all these changes and these new guys. And if you put the guys gone on the left side and the new guys on the right side, wow, that doesn't look so good. How does this all work, right? And where do we think they're going to stack up in this group? How do we think they're going to do? How about you kick it off, Katie?
I'd say so far it's looking like it's going to shake out kind of how I expected, where there's going to be a very clear top three between the Rangers, the Devils, and the Hurricanes, and then the rest are going to kind of figure their way out. Washington's had a hot start, but I don't think they can sustain it. Pittsburgh's had a disaster of a start, and I don't know if they're going to be able to recover from that. The other Metro teams, the Islanders are the Islanders, and the Flyers are going to be what the Flyers are. Same with Columbus. So I really think it's going to be a 3-team race to the finish. And within that, I think our biggest competition is still going to be the Rangers. The Devils are exciting. They are exciting for all the good reasons and for all of the bad reasons too. And so because of their lack of consistency, I don't know that they're going to be able to keep up with the Rangers and the Canes. So I really think the battle for this season is going to be which one can outlast the other. It's going to be Rangers Hurricanes or Hurricanes Rangers, 1-2 atop the Metro by the time the season's over.
I would agree 100% with that. And I actually took a look last night at and I mean I just want to preface this by saying I didn't have a chance to look back at it, and I was, it was very late after the game, but I took a quick look at the standings in just overall, in the NHL and the standings in the Metro specifically. And of course you have to look at points percentage. I know a lot of people like to look at number of wins this early on, but you have to look at points percentage because they've all played such vastly different games. I mean, the Devils have played 11 or 12?
They played 11 games.
Something like that.
They played 11 games. I've got the standings right here. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that the standings have the Rangers top of the Metro right now and the Hurricanes second, and I really think they're going to finish exactly like that. I would not be at all surprised if that's exactly how it shook out. Now, if something drastic happens to the Rangers, if Shesterkin is injured or something unfortunate like that happens, then that could change. But apart from an injury to Igor Shesterkin, I don't see how the Rangers slide that much. It's possible that the Hurricanes could come out on top of them, but I think you're still going to be looking for that differential, the goal differential and the scoring, because I think that the Rangers just have so much more offensive weaponry, and that's the reality for finishing. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them finish. If you took a snapshot of those standings today and we get to the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if it looked fairly similar to that for most of the teams, except, like you said, Washington, because I don't really believe that that's going to last.
Yeah, they're an interesting case for sure. And I kind of agree with both of you on the Caps. I just don't think they've got the staying power. But, you look at the interesting start for the Devils, of course, a lot of concern early on. They won the 2 games over in Europe, and that was great, but they were Buffalo. So they got off to a great quick start, but they have really been sour lately, and their defense has just been leaky. So I think the key with them, and we've talked a lot about this in the past, is they definitely got some offensive weapons, but their game is not structured anything like the Hurricanes. And particularly when you head into playoff action, the Hurricane style is really the right kind of style to play. And I think that's a good thing for the Canes going forward. I agree with you. The Rangers, they're the pick of the litter right now. But, I think the Canes will be close. And I think that's exciting. Now, in the other part of this Eastern group, of course, Florida's off to a great start as well. So, it's the same suspects. I think, again, the Canes off to a great start. Their win percentage is very, very high. So looking good in the Metro right now. And for some of those folks who thought the Canes were going to be well down, I think this is a harbinger of what to expect for the year. So it's pretty exciting stuff. Any closing words?
I just want to add one thing, which is that we're talking about all these things. We're looking at where they're standing. We're looking at, how they're doing overall as a team, the number of wins that they've had. And we're doing this against the backdrop of what is usually their most grueling road trip of the year, because it's long, it's a lot of travel miles. Yes. And, when you think about the fact that they haven't even been home yet for more than just those first 2 games, yes. I mean, how can we not be excited about what it's going to look like in a month from now, barring anything, again, really unforeseen, because anything can happen in hockey. But I think we're going to look back at this beginning and see it as, sort of the prelude of what was coming in terms of their ability to take over and dominate games on a level we haven't even seen them do yet. Because when they can get those matchups, we know that that's something that Rod Brind'Amour is really good at doing in those home games. There's a reason why people used to have the perception back when he first came in, the Canes, they can win games at home, but not on the road, And that's not true under Rod Brind'Amour. It hasn't been true under him from the very beginning, But before his time, that was sort of a thing that got said. So this is a road trip. This is a difficult, lengthy, lots of air travel, lots of changing from one hotel to another one in another city. And, they just did it, between 2 countries which that still doesn't make sense to me. Why did they send them from Edmonton to Seattle and then back to
And
Vancouver?
then back to Vancouver.
But
yes,
that scheduling. But I mean, this is a terrible schedule, and they're thriving. So that's what's got me excited.
Well, it's a good point, and I think I saw a graphic last night that Rod Brind'Amour of the current coaches is the most winning. He's the winningest coach on the road right now, and I think ever. I think he might be ever. It's an amazing number. But they're at home. They're just incredible with that crazy crowd and the Mad Caniacs and so on. They're just really difficult at home. And as you say, he handles the matchups well. So I agree with you. And I was going to mention something along those lines that, this is a tough road trip. And last year it was brutal and it hurt. And there was, dissension and all kinds of things going on. A big meeting of the players, with Aho speaking out and getting them turned back around. And look where they ended up last year. So, I think they're off to a great start. I don't think they're going to continue at this rate. I mean, I think they're going to level off a little bit, which is fine. But they're showing that they can win, and they can win demonstrably. They're out shooting the opposition 2-1 in virtually every game. I mean, it's insane. And that's the other thing about last night's game, which was kind of surprising, is that they're getting towards the end of the road trip, yet they still had a lot in the tank, and that's good stuff. So I think all good points. Katie, any closing comments from your side?
Just to piggyback on what you said with the shots, a lot of times when a team is losing, they'll start pouring on the shots. And so you talk about, well, it ended up being 29-24, but the 24 was score effects because of a team being behind. Well, yesterday, the Canes kept the Kraken, even with their lead, where you expect the Kraken to increase their shot totals. They kept the Kraken under 20 shots for the entire game. I think they finished with 18, 19 shots, something like that. Which really is impressive because the Kraken were pressing. They were trying to find scoring opportunities. And that happened in Calgary, and that happened, I think, in Pittsburgh as well when they got the lead. With Edmonton, they were fighting back. So there wasn't that doesn't happen there. But when in the games where they're leading, they're not allowing teams many opportunities to get back in. You're not seeing those score effects, shot totals in the Canes games that you would see in a lot of other teams games where they've won because they were able to hold on till the end. So if they can keep that going, I think that the Canes are just going to be a force, because I would say they're clicking on almost all cylinders on this road trip. Mm-hmm. Get them clicking on all cylinders, and it's going to be so much fun as a fan to watch. It's going to be great.
Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. And I think they're a little bit ahead of where I thought they'd be at this point. So that's kind of exciting news too. So definitely lots to look forward to. They'll finish off the road trip in Vancouver. Any predictions on the Vancouver game?
Vancouver has been historically pretty hard for the Canes on the road.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's not that way at home. Someone was pointing that out on X earlier, that it's not like they just struggle against Vancouver as a team, but specifically against Vancouver in their home arena in Vancouver. But the Canes have almost always ended up playing that game, because it's usually only one a year, at the end of this road trip. So there have been seasons, I know in the recent past, we've had seasons where they've come in and they've already had to, make some call-ups or do go 11-7 or something because of injuries or because of illnesses. People pick up a lot of illnesses on these road trips too, as I've been hearing from other teams. So I don't know that we can say just write this one off. It's going to be too hard. I mean, it's going to be a very hard game, no question, because the Canucks are not an easy team to play against.
Correct.
But I think the idea that, the Canes never win in Vancouver has been an artifact of certain past realities that don't seem like they're present on this road trip. Everybody seems healthy. Everybody seems like they're, clicking together and in a good place. There's not a lot of people learning the new systems, and the ones that are doing well. So I'm thinking at the very least, they're probably going to take this one to overtime, and they might win it in overtime. So I'm gonna go for an overtime win. That's going to be my prediction.
I think it'll be close, but I think they win it in regulation. Vancouver.
Regulation.
Vancouver is not in sync right now as a team.
Okay.
They're doing okay, but they're not. I think is it Pedersen who's their star scorer? That there were rumors last year that he was going to get traded.
He was coming to the Hurricanes for half our team. Yes, that's right.
I think last night he got his first goal.
Yeah. Oh wow!
Like there had been comments I had seen. If it wasn't his first goal, there were a lot of comments about he's just not scoring. He's not doing what he's needing to do. So he's a little off. The team just seems a little out of sync. I definitely know that there haven't been all of the Quinn Hughes chirpers in the comments when it comes to Makar, that there have been in the past. And so Hughes must be getting off to a slow start as well. So hopefully the Canes can just help to continue the Canucks woes. And so I don't think it'll be as convincing as the Seattle win was, but I do think that they'll win in regulation. Yeah.
I'm all for that. I'd love to be wrong.
I'm all for that. I guess I'm looking at a 4-2 road trip, which I think would be amazing. If they somehow manage to beat Vancouver, that would be surreal. But I'm expecting the Canucks to give them quite a tough go. And I think it's going to be hard for the Canes to win this one, but we'll see. If you guys are right, that's awesome. Okay.
Well, we're going to be the optimists.
Yes,
and that's fine. And I just know that the Canucks are grumpy right now. So, and it's in their barn, so it's going to be a tough one for us.
That's true. In
any case, as always, ladies, great to talk hockey and. For sure, a lot of fun today because of the way the Canes are playing, and we'll catch up soon to talk about more of what's going on with the Hurricanes. For those of you who have been watching or listening, please leave your comments down below, and we'll try to respond just as quickly as we can. If you like this episode, please press the like button, and of course, if you want to be alerted of future episodes, please subscribe and hit the bell, and we'll make sure you're aware of when they're available. As always, thanks so much for joining us here on stormTRacker. We're going to catch up real soon, right here.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends for everything with the Canes. You need stormTRacker.